she overdosed, and I never really dealt with it in a healthy way. 6 months after she died, that's exactly when I turned to drugs, because I wanted to numb that pain. Then eventually I thought I was healed.
So hold on, she's an addict. She dies from overdose, and you make the decision to do the same thing? Why? Like, did you want to die then?
Spirituality and capitalism belong together. Those thoughts, those feelings, that comes from something bigger than I am. And together I believe we can all grow. That's how we're going to change the world. That's how we're going to change the planet.
All right, so today I am joined by Kaden Jenson, and before we get into this, what I would ask the listeners to do first and foremost, we're going to be covering adult content. We're going to be covering things I don't think is something you want your children to hear, or you may. We're going to be talking about some very gritty subjects and things that are very personal to me, but it is important for you to know before you start listening to the show that this is going to be adult content. There will probably be adult language, and so you can listen at your own risk. But so take me back about a month ago, where you basically end up overdosing. Well, you didn't basically overdose. Basically didn't overdose. You overdosed.
Yeah. So, 36 days ago, living in Denver, I faced an overdose. I was using very heavy, hard drugs for years and years and years. And I hit a point where, at this point, I decided to take a drug that I thought I knew about. Unfortunately, it was laced with an even harder drug, fentanyl. And that ultimately led me to an overdose with mixing a cocktail of drugs.
So you're there. Give me a little bit more detail. So you're there in Denver. You kind of explained this to me earlier, but you went to your dealers, right?
Yep.
And you picked up I'm guessing your normal drugs that you would have picked up when you were out there in Denver, or just kind of a normal thing that you were doing?
Yeah, so, just my normal routine of, meeting up with my dealer and going to pick up cocaine. And I meet up with him, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and he hands me a separate bag and says, "This is on the house." I started selling ketamine, and I said, "Awesome. I can do it. I've done it before. I know all about it. Thinking I'm the smartest person in the world." And going from that on, I decided to pull an all-nighter, doing cocaine after cocaine, hit after hit, line after line, feeling high, having conversations, and, feeling like how I would normally feel. 6 o'clock in the morning rolls around. I'm just like, all right, I want to wind down. My heart is beating out of my chest, and I say, okay, I've got the perfect remedy for it. After looking at it, ketamine isn't crystals. It's not. It's more powdery, and I know what ketamine feels like. After a bump of it, okay, cool. I feeling loose, feeling high, whatever. Couple more bumps go by. I'm starting to feel jittery, and I'm thinking, okay, something's not right. All right, maybe I'll take a little bit more. 7 o'clock in the morning rolls around. I take my final hit, and I lay down, and I start feeling my body slow down. Start slowing down, something I've never felt before. I've laid there higher than high, and it's just, I'm feeling my body slow. I start feeling one eye roll back, one eye roll down. My eyes start closing, and I feel myself dying.
How was that experience of dying?
It was the scariest, most calming feeling I've ever felt. For the prior 6 days to that, I wanted nothing more than to die. I thought I'd be fine. Everything would be easier. I wouldn't have to deal with more with anything else going on.
Yeah, no dramas, no problems, no nothing, easy, lights out.
Easy, lights out. Wouldn't have to deal with anything that was to come, any anxieties that I had for the following week. I closed my eyes, I put my head back, and I started seeing these 3 little lines scrolling in a line, just going like this. And then I knew if I didn't open my eyes, I was going to die.
Yeah, but you failed at doing that, obviously, because you're here.
Something in me told me, not yet.
What told you that?
I had a voice in my head. It just said, I don't think right now is your time.
There's
something bigger going on.
How did it feel when that happened? With that voice, that the energy of that voice, was it loud? Was it soft? Did it feel peaceful? Did it feel calm? Was it scary?
It was the most peaceful sounding voice I've ever had. Think of yourself dressed in all white, sitting on a beach, right? All you hear is the waves crashing, and you just hear that little voice just going whoosh. Your time's not ready yet.
And then what?
I fought it. I thought, maybe it is, maybe it's not. And then I finally listened to it. I opened my eyes. And then I knew right then and there that there was something more. I had more things to do. I had more time. I had more people to connect with. There was something more to me than just my addiction. There was something more to life than just dying.
Wow. Yeah, most people, when they get to that point in time, they can't say that. You know, they literally do die. They overdose, go to San Francisco, go to major cities throughout the country, and you see the Walking Dead everywhere. Yep. It is an absolute pandemic that we're facing here in our society, and it affects every single age group for the most part. Starts from a young age and kind of works its way up. You're an addict and have been in that space as far as an addict and experiencing all those things for 8+ years.
Yep, exactly. 8 years. 8 years of running from so many problems, 8 years of trying to numb so much pain. And just there's so many underlying events and things that got into it that I just tried to run from for so long. And I hit my point where I was tired of running. And that little voice said, no more. Keep going. You've got more to do. There's more to life than just waking up, doing drugs, partying, and going to bed. Maybe not even going to bed.
Yeah, just keep going, keep moving forward, day in, day out, meeting the dealer, getting more money, meeting the dealer, getting more money, being on that cycle, that basically that hamster wheel.
Absolutely. You're stuck on that hamster wheel. You're just on a rotating wheel, day in and day out. Oh, you don't have money? You'll figure it out. You'll find money. You'll lie, steal, cheat, to do whatever you can to get high.
Right.
And you get stuck in that wheel for so long.
So I was hesitant about having you on the show. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't because of you as an individual. It was because of the fact of that often, in my experience, as I said, I would talk to you about this on air, is that people, they've been in a cycle for 8 to 10 to 12, 15, 20 years. And then they get this moment in time where they get off the drug because something tells them to, whether it's using gel, rehab, something forces them off, right? And then they will stay sober for quite some time, and then they will go to the plummets of hell. And I've watched this over and over with my own family, right? The reason, though, I decided this was a different story was not because of the fact that you have now been breaking those chains and you've been making decisions to make different choices for the last 35 days, but is in the way that you're doing it. Because a lot of people, they'll say, okay, great, I'm going to take Suboxone, I'm going to go do therapy, I'm going to go do all these things. And, therapy and doing shadow work is really important. But what I've noticed is that when things get difficult, when things push against that individual, they break and they go back to what is comfortable, which is the numbing out, the drugs, the party, all of that, right? And what I want to talk about is what is actually saving your life. And that's cold plunging.
Absolutely. Cold plunging has saved my life completely. 35 days ago, I moved home to Salt Lake City, and I knew that if I'm here, I'm going to be doing whatever I can and taking as many measures and steps that I can to not go back to that comfortableness of numbing and trying to run from my pain. Because at some point, if I don't stop running, it's going to kill me. And I don't want that anymore. So every single morning, I wake up 7 o'clock. I get up out of bed, brush my teeth, make my bed, feed the dog, and I go out and I go sit in a 33-degree plunge for anywhere from 3 to 8 minutes every single morning. If I, throughout my day, have a craving or if I'm starting to feel low, I will jump in the car and I will go and sit in a cold plunge bath for anywhere from 3 to 8 minutes. I will go and sit in a sauna for 30 minutes, do meditations, jump into an ice bath, get back out, jump in a sauna, right back into an ice bath until I feel like I am okay to go home, sit there, and understand that I am only moving forward and not backward. Mm. And the support, the resources, and the tools that I've learned just from cold plunging is one of the most incredible things that I've learned so far. And if I could, and I will, and I am determined to get that message across, that this is a healthy coping mechanism, going from one unhealthy addiction to a healthy addiction.
So one of the things I've noticed is that everybody in some form or another is an addict. Mm-hmm. We're an addict to something. It's either we're addict to food, sugar, porn, sex, success, whatever it is, right? To be accepted. There's all these different things that we're addicts to. There's things that are running in the background that are keeping us addicted to things. And for me, I had done plenty of cocaine, smoked more weed than I think most human beings, should be able to smoke. and LSD and a handful of other things. But I don't consider LSD or mushrooms or hallucinogens actual drugs if there's an intention behind them. And that's a whole different subject for another day, but I want to make sure I was clear on that. But one of the things that was my drug of choice was alcohol. It's easy to get, it's simple to find. And the reason I was using alcohol is because I was trying to have fun. It's because I wanted to lower my vibration so I could relate to people, because I hated the mundane conversations all the time. And so when I look at this, there was some major things that had to happen in my own life for me to make decisions and choices to stop doing that. But I also had to find the root cause of all these things. And it was wanting to be accepted. It was wanting to be fun. It was wanting to be all these things I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to do it. And when I drank, I was able to do that. Do you feel that your addiction has been caused by some of those things? Do you feel some of those same pressures?
Oh, absolutely. So many pressures were revolved on drugs and alcohol. Because like how you said that you want to lower your vibrations, you want to be able to match people and not have those same mundane conversations of, oh, how was your day? What's your favorite color, right? When you're drinking and when you're doing drugs, you lower so many walls that opens yourself up to more conversation with people. It makes you fun, makes you easy. It makes those conversations even better because then you start asking questions your sober self wouldn't normally ask, right? That kind of like resonates a little bit. So feeling the pressures of having to have those alcohol and those drugs is crazy, and that's where a lot of it stems from. Is I wanted to be the life of the party. I wanted to be that party boy. I wanted to be the one that everyone wanted around all the time. And then, eventually it went from life of the party to the shit show of the party. And that's a turning point for you, is when you realize that, like, okay, people aren't inviting me to things because now I'm getting too fucked up. Because now I'm drinking too much. And now I am making an ass out of myself. And then you become the shit show of the party, and then no one really wants you there.
What led to drugs? Like, what led to this 8-year binge, basically?
8-year binge. I mean, growing up, there was a lot of pain, a lot of suffering that I dealt with. I had never dealt with. I suppressed so many things. My mom dying, she overdosed, and I never really dealt with it in a healthy way. 6 months after she died, that's exactly when I turned to drugs, because I wanted to numb that pain. Then eventually I thought I was healed, and then...
So hold on, she's an addict. Mm-hmm. She dies from overdose. Yep. And you make the decision to do the same thing?
Yep.
Why? Like, did you want to die then? I mean, was that the overall goal? Because mom died from drugs. I mean, your chances of dying from drugs are pretty high, or going to prison, one or the other. How old are you at this time?
I'm 26.
Got it.
I'm 26, and this is all 18.
So you're 18 years old.
Yep. I've struggled with my mental health for years, and a lot of it was self-inflicted because I wasn't taking appropriate steps and I was coping with drugs and alcohol. Obviously, those are going to lower my dopamine levels. It's going to lower my serotonin levels. No matter what I would do, I would always just want to be high to fill that void. I knew that there were consequences. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, you're no dummy.
I knew that, like, okay, I saw my mom go through it. I saw my dad go through it. They both went through opioid addiction, drug addiction, pretty much whatever they could get their hands on. I saw them go through it. I knew what could happen. I knew the possibilities. I didn't care, because then I started having the pressures of society and friends around me, like, wanting to have a good time, and I wanted to fit in. I wanted to see my friends, like, we'd go to a party, they would drink. Oh my God, I want to drink too. Oh my God, my friends are doing drugs. I want to fit in, so I want to do that too.
Yeah.
And then over time, obviously, I am a gay man. I'm an open gay man. And a lot of the gay culture and community has so much pressure around that, because you want to be the party boy. You want to have the fun. You want to be able to stay up longer, perform better, work harder, and all around just be a fun time. But how long does that fun time last?
Right. So we talked about this before we came on air, and that was that in the gay community, right, which I hadn't really thought about this actually, is that it is so prominent in the gay culture because of, one, the partying, right? Like you were explaining to me earlier, a lot of the partying, a lot of the gay clubs and so forth, but even more so than that, the drugs that help you, be able to perform sexual acts and stay, go longer, go harder, and all of those things, and the pressure that comes from the sexual performance of things.
Yeah. So, the sexual performance of things with drugs, it's huge in the gay community, because when you go to gay clubs, you see these men that are sculpted perfectly, and you want to be that person. You want to be that person that everyone's looking at. You want to be that center of attention. So when you start doing these drugs, you start learning that you can perform better. You get skinnier, you get hotter, you get more chiseled. Your body starts to look more fit. And so there's a lot of pressure with that one because when you're around people like that, it's an ego boost. When you're looking hot, skinny, and fit, and everyone's looking at you, your ego's through the roof. But you're only getting hot, skinnier, and fitter by doing these drugs, which again is leading you down to addiction. Because when you stop doing the drugs, what's going to happen to your body? You're going to lose that. And then that confidence and that ego is going to go down because there's people not gawking over you. And then when you start surrounding yourself with these people who are doing drugs, who are looking the way they're looking, you want to fit in with them. It's those pressures that come back to it all over again. And you think, oh, this is fine because I'm able to still go to work. I'm able to still party. I'm able to still look the way that I do. But really, when you take a step back, it's not okay. Because you are destroying not only you, but you're destroying relationships around you.
Yeah, drugs are very prominent in like sexual communities.
Very big and very, very wide. And it's not just like, it's more your upper drugs. You've got cocaine, you've got meth, you've got Adderall. Anything that's going to give you that stimulant is so popular in the gay community because it makes you stay up longer, you perform better, you essentially are happier, and so that's what makes you skinny.
One of the things that occurs to me, so there's a lot of cultures that are into LS communities, right? Meaning these open communities of sexual preferences, multiple partners, orgies, and all kinds of stuff, right? And at one point in time in my own life, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have just multiple partners. I mean, I'll have 2, 3, 4 girlfriends, whatever it is. And I realized for me personally that was not a choice I wanted to make because I realized it actually shut my energy off and it didn't help me stay connected to what I want. And people have their own preferences. They can do what they want. But in that community, I noticed that drugs are used at high levels. And I believe when it comes to things like orgies and these types of things, it's because they're almost wanting to turn themselves off a little bit, even though they want to go through this pleasurable experience. They want to have this fantasy. They want to, live out this fetish and this kink. At the same time, they have to turn off a lot of themselves in doing so. Do you find that has been a lot of your own experience?
Absolutely. Like you said, that's perfect. That's the fantasy of it, right? You don't know what you're into or what you're liking or what your kind of kinks are, right? So you have these fantasies. So you try it once and it shuts your energy off. But then it's like, okay, well, maybe if I can try it again, it'll be a different story. So say you go to an orgy, you try it one time and it shuts your energy off, like you said, completely. And then you kind of leave thinking, oh, did I do that right? Did I do it wrong? Did I do it right? And you say, okay, well, I want to try it again. But then you get introduced to the drugs aspect of it. And then you start doing the drugs. And then it brings that energy that you shut off manually. And it's bringing that energy back forcefully. So it's almost like you don't have any control over it. And then you just understand that you perform better, you perform well under these drugs. You're more sociable, you're more talkative, you're more sexually active with these orgies when you're on these drugs. So then you learn to shut your energy off manually, and then you turn to those drugs to forcefully turn that back on for you. And I think that, again, is a huge, huge disconnect. And again, that's addiction. It's how it can start. Because you shut off everything manually and it brings it back forcefully.
Yeah, you start to lose a lot of who you are in that process because the things that you're doing is really going against your nature. As a gay man, you growing up here in the United States, I'm assuming there's a lot of different pressures and a lot of different assumptions of who you're supposed to be to fit into the mold of the gay culture.
Absolutely. There's so many assumptions of who you should be, what you should do, how you should act. And I'm going to be real honest and blunt, is the gay community, they have this way of living that is sex, drugs, alcohol, party. You need to be wearing all these skimpy clothes, being flamboyant and showing off to the world that you are gay. And that is what they are portraying that you need to be a gay man. And that's not what you need to be a gay man. Being a gay man doesn't matter. It's you being a heterosexual, me being a homosexual.
Sure.
Who you fuck, I don't care. Who I fuck, you don't care.
Correct.
Right? I'm not going to go out there and make that my personality. I'm not going to be flamboyant because there's more to me than just being gay. And I think that is a lot of social pressure from everybody because they want to fetishize these gay men because these gay men throw themselves out there. It's like we talked about earlier before the show. These people look at gay men as like an object. They say, oh my God, I've wanted to have a gay best friend. I finally have one. It's like I told you, like that girl.
It's the weirdest thing
It's
ever.
weird. Like you're telling me my life purpose is to just be a gay best friend for all you girls. Yeah, I love the girls. Love the girls, right? Okay. But no, it's not my life purpose. Like I told you, that girl, she goes, I've always wanted a gay best friend and I finally have one. Okay, what do I do now?
Yeah, like,
Do I jump through a hoop? Like, do you want me to do a backflip? I don't know. Like, what do I do?
are we playing dress up?
Like, dress me up. Okay, do my makeup. Okay, cool. I look really hot in makeup. I've tried it. I've done it. I'll do it again probably. Who knows? But it's like, what? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And people fetishize the gay community in that way. And it's interesting to me.
And I think it's a lot because a lot of like heterosexual people don't understand the gay community, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't get it. Like when I was younger, I had a really good friend of mine, and we would travel around the country, and we'd actually help build Mormon temples. Mm-hmm. And we'd just be hanging out and be like, okay, cool, we're going to go to a club. And I'm like, all right, great, where are we going to go? And we'd end up in all these different gay clubs across the country. Lots of fun, lots of really beautiful women in those clubs. And you're right, the women would love to hang around all of these gay men. And I saw it time and time again. So for me, it was great. And at the same time, those places, I don't think most people, because I've never been to them, understand what goes on there, the amount of drugs, the amount of disconnection that is there. But it's also there in every single nightclub throughout the country, like not just gay clubs. I want to be clear on that. But there is a prominent energy that way, and a very sexualized energy towards gay men specifically. I would definitely say that's the case.
Oh, I would have to completely agree with you. I can tell you countless times I've walked into a gay club and I'm getting my ass grabbed. I'm getting a hand down my pants. I'm getting somebody in my ear trying to bite on my ear. You know, it's so the sexual tension in a gay club is crazy. But when you think about it, no one is sober there. Nobody is sober. Everybody, 99% of people are going to be on drugs. They're going to be on Molly, ecstasy, cocaine, anything that's going to cause that disconnect where they don't feel nervous.
Yeah.
And that's where they get
so they can be sexually free and open, and
exactly,
because if not, they have the anxiety, they have certain things inside of them are saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't, put our hands down some guy's pants. Maybe that's not okay to do, right? Like that's very it's very abusive, really.
It is.
And it's just something I mean, if I thought about it, if I walked in public and someone did that, I would deck them. Like that wouldn't be an option. Like that would not happen. And so for you to put yourself in those situations, even being a gay man that's into men, that doesn't mean that you want some guy to put their hands down your pants.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If I'm walking into a club and the first thing I'm feeling is your hand on my ass, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, I'm here to have a good time with my girls. 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to be at a gay club with my girls, right? I'm going to be with my girls. I want to hang out with them. I don't want to sit here and be sexualized by you. Okay, yeah. Have there been times where those have been my intentions? Yeah, there were.
Sure.
But it's not what I'm wanting. Let me ask you, when you think of the gay community, what are your 3 first thoughts you think of?
Oh, that's an interesting one. That was great. When I think about the gay community, for me, the first things I think of is when I was a kid, a teenager, I had a friend of mine that came out, right? And when he came out, all of a sudden, he started talking with a lisp. He was carrying a purse. Like all this stuff started to shift, and it was very confusing to me personally. And so I started to explore and try to understand that side. And so in the state of Utah, we would go to different, gay marches and so forth to make sure that we could figure out a way to make people so they could have those belief systems and the things that really, kids were committing suicide over was their own sexual preferences. Yeah. So when I think of the gay community, I think of that side, right? Mm-hmm. The other side I think of is the crazy parties, as we talked about before, right? I think about when the gay parade's coming to town and you've got guys, in a shower going down the middle of the road or something like that. Yeah. Or I think about, I also think about something like Harvey Milk. And I think about the struggles that he went through. And there's a lot of different things I think that tie into the gay culture, but drugs is one of them. Like I think of multiple sexual partners, I wouldn't say it's some kind of clean image I have in my head by any means.
Yeah. And I think that's, for you to say that you don't have that clean image, that is 95%.
Of course.
Of everybody is they don't have that clean image of it. And when you think of that 95% of people not having that clean image, if you are somebody who's just getting into the gay community because you're just coming out and you're exploring yourself and finding out who you are, if you don't have that clean image, how are you supposed to show somebody who's new to this that clean image if you don't even have it?
Well, yeah, and even as a kid,
Exactly.
You don't want to be a fag, you don't want to be gay, you don't want to be a pussy, you don't want to be like. There's all these different things that are said constantly to children, and I was exposed to that as like, boys being mean to boys, and the last thing you would ever want to do is kiss another guy, right? Like,
absolutely,
not even close. Where did you get your image of what the gay culture looks like?
I got my image of the gay culture after I spent years and years in a toxic gay culture that wasn't a clean image of partying and trying to fit in and doing drugs just because everybody was doing the drugs. And then it dawned on me that that's not what the gay community is. Gay community is about acceptance, and it's about, learning to love everybody the way that everyone should be loved.
Of course.
And that's the hardest thing for me to sit here because the gay men that I talk to, I have built my circle so well that they have this clean image that I have been trying to teach people for so long. Is that you don't have to do drugs to fit in. You don't have to go to gay clubs to fit in. You don't have to make it your whole personality.
And yet for 8 years you were.
And for 8 years, that's exactly who I was because I wanted to fit in. And then ultimately it led me down.
So do you feel like a hypocrite then by telling people that, hey, listen, like this is a culture we should have, and at the same time next weekend, doing cocaine or whatever you're doing?
I think when I was preaching it over the last 8 years, I was hypocritical, and I was very much a hypocrite. But now, over the last 35 days, my goal, and like I said, I wake up pillow to pillow now. I don't want to go out and do cocaine and party on the weekends. I don't like to do that. It's not something that even interests me at this point. And I can feel that in my stomach because now I get anxiety whenever I even think about going to a club. And I sit here and I go, oh, I crawl out of my own skin. Was I a hypocrite for 8 years? Absolutely, because I wanted to practice this clean image, and then I would go out, and then I would just do the complete opposite. Snort cocaine, do Molly. I would have sex with random men, orgies, sex parties at any given time. And then after that weekend was over, I felt like shit.
Yeah.
Because I was not practicing what I am preaching.
And I'm sure you're beating yourself up.
Day in and day out.
And then more likely judging other people because, well, you're judging yourself.
Day in and day out. And then ultimately, like, you start sitting with that because you're, like you said, you're on that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
It's a hamster wheel of hypocriticalness, and you are just sitting there beating yourself up and doing it over and over again because you don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
And then you keep going. That hamster wheel gets faster and faster and faster. And you start speeding it up because you have nothing else, because you want to numb that pain that you're causing yourself.
Yeah. I also think that when we talk about being hypocritical and when we talk about judging ourselves, you being sober for 35 days, that's not going to go away. We are always constantly, as human beings, judging ourselves, and we're always constantly trying to do better. And sometimes we're sliding back and we're moving forward and we're sliding back. And what I love about what you just said is it's pillow to pillow. Some people say day to day, but for you, it's like when my pillow hits or when my head hits the pillow, and then when I wake up in the morning and I continue to choose these actions, I continue to choose into my addictions that are addicted to freedom, addicted to my personal growth, addicted to who I am as an individual, addicted to my message. Man, that's a place to grow into, right?
Yep.
Because there's no fucking arrival.
No.
Like, I don't care if you've been doing this for 8 years, 10 years. The facts is that there's no arrival anywhere, and we are all doing the best we can day by day by day and taking it day by day. Right. And I know that for you and most addicts that have done things for a long period of time, their brain starts to get rewired in a certain way. And that is when things get difficult and they get hard, and they will, most addicts I know, because I'm so close to them, they automatically go back to what was comfortable, which is the unplugging of spirit, the unplugging of consciousness and the judgments of self. And it's into a bottle of alcohol, it's into a bag of cocaine, it's into, snorting up heroin or whatever it is, but it's in the unplugging and it's in the numbing of those things. How do you make sure you don't do the same thing that literally statistically is the facts?
how I don't want to be a statistic is
How do you not do, not how do you not want to be?
how do I
What choices do you make so that you're not the statistic?
I wake up pillow to pillow. The choices that I make are the choices that I don't are the choices that I choose because I don't want to be a statistic. What I do is I wake up, I cold plunge, and I am talking to kids, teens, and parents every weekend. And if they're looking at me for that support and they're looking up to me for that, why would I choose to go back to a life that isn't going to even make me progress, survive, or anything?
Why do you think cold plunges is actually helping you do this, though? I mean, it's fascinating. When you said, hey, I use cold plunges for my sobriety, I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Because to me, it's about breaking the chains of addiction, right? Because we're all carrying chains. Like you've been carrying chains for many years, 8+ years, stuff if you continue to do your own work, probably stuff anywhere between 0-5, right? In that age group, there's been a lot of trauma that usually happens as we go forward and you're forming your own sexuality and you're forming your opinions, you're forming the beliefs people have on you and all the choices you make when you betray yourself. That stacks on over periods of time. And so we continue to put these chains on until eventually they bury us, right?
Absolutely. It's a ball and chain to your ankle.
Until you slowly start to pull them off yourself, right? So when you're doing these cold plunges, what is actually happening to you internally that's allowing you to like get rid of some of these cravings you're having? Because majority of people, those cravings are never going to go away. And so someone's listening today that you could change their life and maybe even save their life. Why is this actually working this way?
It's working this way for me because when you are a drug addict, you are constantly chasing that rush of that very first high. That first line of cocaine you do of the night, how often are you chasing that line for the rest of the night? You're chasing it for 2 or 3 days, God knows how long. After that first hit of meth, you're chasing it, trying to find that high. Cold plunging for me has worked so well because the second I get into that bath, it sends a rush down my spine, and it's a rush I've never felt before. And it's not a rush that I'm constantly chasing. And everything that I do in the cold plunge, it puts me in fight or flight. That 33-degree water puts my body into fight or flight, and it teaches me to breathe through pain. It teaches me to breathe through my mental blockage, through my physical blockage, and it helps relieve my nerves and anxiety. So when I'm getting in that cold plunge, I am completely in the moment there. I can't think about anything else. And I'm feeling that rush go down the back of my spine, and it's going and it's shooting all the way through my body. And that is something that I've chased for 8 years now. And I have found it. I went from one unhealthy addiction to a healthy addiction.
Wow. And the fact that you were able to find that and you were able to, when those cravings happen, that you're able to put yourself into 33 degrees of water, go to fight or flight, and that helps relieve or pull away the sensation of wanting to go back to the drugs. That's amazing to me. And it's amazing that when we sit in our own discomfort, we find our own peace.
Exactly. That right there is sitting in your own discomfort. How often, I mean, you're going to sit in a 33-degree bath. Are you going to be comfortable like you're laying in a hot tub or a bed full of blankets? Absolutely not. So if you're sitting to that discomfort, you're working through so many feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And, you know, like I've said, if I'm having a craving in the middle of the day, I will get up, I will go sit in there for 3 to 8 minutes, whether it be 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, like I'm choosing me and I'm choosing the way that I want to live. And if I'm having those cravings and if it's helping those cravings, I'm going to go and do it.
Yeah, when you're in that cold plunge at that moment in time, right? You see a lot of people doing cold plunges now, right? You see a lot of athletes, they've been doing them a long time. You've seen a lot of entrepreneurs doing them. And what I think about the most with cold plunging is it puts you in one place and only one place, in the moment.
Absolutely.
There's no past, there's no future, there's no nothing. There's only you, the water, the ability to get out of the water if you choose to, but it's also that moment in time to where the only thing that we can go to in order to sit into the discomfort and not run from it is breath.
It's breath work.
Just breathing in, breathing out, calming the nervous system down, and just letting yourself know it will be okay and you can make it through this 3 minutes, 8 minutes. You can make it through this process. And if you're willing to do the most difficult things in the morning, when things get to be the most difficult throughout the day, you've already eaten the elephant at that point in time, right? You've already done the most difficult things. And so for you, when the difficult things come to you in the middle of the day. How are you able to handle those versus the way you handled them in the past?
I sit there and I breathe. I do my breath work. If I'm having a rough day, I sit there and breathe. I do a box breathing. I do 4 in, hold 4, 4 out. And I do that throughout my entire day. I look at cold plunging and breathing techniques as when you're an addict and you want to fall back into drugs, how often do you fight yourself on going to actually get them, right? When you're in recovery, how often are you fighting yourself and how many minutes are you fighting yourself? I guarantee you breathe for 7 to 10 minutes right before you go pick up drugs. You're not going to want those drugs. When you're in a cold plunge and you're sitting there and you're thinking, I'm so damn cold, I can't, I have to get out, I have to get out. Okay, you breathe. Give yourself another 2 to 3 minutes and you're going to be calm and you're going to sit in that water.
Yeah. I mean, I've known addicts that in order for them not to go pick up drugs, they've tried to blind themselves with lasers in their eyes. So because they so badly don't want to do those things, but there's something internally that's driving them so much to want to go do those drugs. I don't think anybody, when they become an addict, once they finally realize like, oh shit, I'm an addict. Like I cannot move, operate, experience life without these drugs. And everybody in my family, my community, they've accepted the fact that I'm an addict. So now I don't have to hide it. Now I can just simply be an addict and they're going to either judge me, they're going to do what they're going to do. And that's just it. Like, that's just who I am. I'm an addict. And so at that point, going to get the drugs, doing those things, there's no more stigma on it, except inside of that individual, because I know majority of addicts I know, they desperately want to stop doing what they're doing because they see it's destroying their life. And not only is the world judging them, but they're judging themselves so harshly. And it's interesting to think as if they maybe took a moment to breathe, to get into uncomfortability, to jump into a cold plunge when things are getting difficult, and a moment to get the thought when that fight or flight's coming, if that would be a solution for some people. It obviously is a solution for you.
It's a solution for me that I found has worked incredibly. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to have the tools and resources and the centers that I go to have that. And with me doing this over the last 35 days, my message is like that I want to be able to be a coach. I want to be able to be a mentor for them, to bring them into the center and help them and show them that, yes, like there is another side to it.
Do you feel by having so many people look up to you and addicts in general and children and teenagers and the community, are you afraid of letting them down?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am terrified of letting them down, but again, that's my own fear. Because only I can let them down is if I let myself slip. And having the support and platform that I have, that is enough for me to keep going. And that's enough for me to help me not slip.
Talk to me about the pressures of that.
When you have people looking up to you, it's a little hard, okay? You know, like I've got my little brother who I hold that kid on a pedestal. And he looks up to me so much. And over the last 8 years, yeah, I've not been around and I've been absent. But over the last 35 days, he's looked up to me so much. And there is so much pressure with that because I don't want to be the one to let him down. He doesn't have a whole lot of family. And I want to be able to be a good outlet for him. And so there's so much pressure that comes from that. There's also so much pressure from these younger kids that I'm coaching and looking at now, saying, here's my story. I don't want you to have to go through this. And so there's pressure with these younger kids because especially when you're 13, 14, you're going through these DARE programs or whatever programs they have in schools these days.
Sure.
And
which don't work.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of pressure to speak with people. And when they say, oh, like I'm looking up to you, this is so great, I'm so proud of you. Sometimes it gets hard because you could sit there at night and maybe you're not proud of you, but they're proud of you.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you go, okay, well, if I'm not proud of me and they are, do I believe it? Do I not?
It's that imposter syndrome. And I mean, everybody has it in so many different things. I continue to think about you as an individual. And that is that you're putting yourself out there so publicly, 35 days of sobriety, right? And most addicts I know, they say, hey, like, I've been clean, I've been sober, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And they're at the top of the world, right? It's this peak thing. And eventually this starts to happen, right? Like it's no longer, we're not tying our identity to our sobriety. We're not tying our identity to these things, just like you're not tying your identity to, your sexual preferences. And then things start to go downward, right? And so it's that pressure that I would invite you to not see as pressure, but as a gift. Because if we view things as pressure, eventually that pressure is going to break.
Absolutely.
But if we have the gift of seeing things like, okay, this is a gift, and I'm going to do, as you said, pillow to pillow. I'm going to do my best with what I have been given. And in doing so, I might inspire some people in the process. And your job is not to save anybody. Your job is not to inspire anybody. Your job is simply to exist and to make the most amount of impact you can. But if you tie your mission into other people and not yourself, that pressure is going to get the best of you. Absolutely. Like I promise you it'll get the best of you. But if you make it that it's not about that, you're simply sharing your story, that you're an imperfect human being having an imperfect experience here on this earth, and you give yourself that mercy and you're humble about that, I think that will take you much further. Because I know in anybody that they have that pressure, all of a sudden they start to turn inwardly and they think, oh, what if I let them down? Oh, what if this happens? Oh, what if that happens? Oh, what if this happens? And that becomes a self-prophecy because of that. We talked earlier that we create everything in our existence.
Oh, yes, we do. We create everything.
So if we create everything, then that means we also create our own pressure.
You're right. We do create our own pressure. And like you said, I'm an imperfect human being. Got an imperfect world, and all I can do is share my story. I can't save anybody. Do I want to save people? Yeah. Can I? No. But can I give them tools and resources? I can.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that will save them because they can save themselves with the tools, resources, coaching, mentorship that I can provide.
Because you're on your journey.
I'm on mine, and I want to be able to share mine with other people to show them that there is that other side. Because like I've said, if you're in active addiction, you can't see the other side.
Right.
You don't see that other side. And I want to be that other side. I want to be living proof of that other side. That, yeah, you can fuck up. You can make shitty decisions. You can go through addictions. And you can blow your entire world up.
But sometimes you need to, though. Sometimes you need to blow your whole entire world up to find out who you are, what you're capable of, and really like what the universe has in store for you. Like we can't... So many people, they want to just think that life is going to be this fucking beautiful thing and you're going to walk down the path and you're not ever going to get hit in the face by life. You're not going to get pummeled down. That is not going to happen. You're not going to lose anybody. You're not going to face addictions. You're not going to do horrible things. You're not going to experience horrible things. That you're not going to have adversity in us. And the facts are we're going to have adversity because adversity is what actually makes us who we are. So the thing is, I have a question for you. You've been an addict for 8 years. Mm-hmm. Your story right now is you're an addict. Who would you be without your fucking story? Because your stories are defining you. The stories of saying, I'm an addict, this is what happened, this is what occurred, I'm a gay man, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. Who are you without all those stories? You no longer can share those stories with anybody. Who are you?
I'm Kaden Jenson.
What's the purpose of being here?
The purpose of being here, regardless, is to love other people, to show other people there's light no matter where you're at. And if I didn't have any of these stories to share, I would still take the same humble and whole heart that I have and still pour it into the world.
Wrong. The purpose of being here is for you to experience yourself. The purpose for you here is to experience your opposition of things. It's not to inspire the world. It's not to do any of those things. It's simply for you to experience the world. And you've been experiencing the dark side of the world. Now you get to experience the light side of the world. And the only way you can do that is by giving your light. By giving your light, that expands you. We're all trying to save everybody. We're all trying to do all these things. And that process is what causes all the pressure. That process is what causes all the pain. It's because we're always trying to prove something to somebody. We need to be sexy. We need to be the life of the party. We need to do this. We need to do that. Fuck those people. All you need to do is experience yourself internally, your own breath. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the ability? What are the gifts I have to bring to the world through my own self-expression? But not because I'm trying to save anything or do anything or like do this thing. There's nothing to do. A tree doesn't ask how to grow. It simply fucking grows.
I like that analogy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I needed that. Thank you.
It's just so many people jump into sobriety from a standpoint of saying, I have fucking arrived. I've been doing this for 30 days. And now I have the right to go tell people or to share my story or to say these things. But you don't. I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying if you get your identity wrapped into that, that'll be your downfall. Because you're going to feel the pressure. You're going to feel those things. You're going to be like, oh, I can't let people down. I can't do these things. I can't do that. Well, hold on a second. That's not your job. Your job is to go within and be like, okay, what do I have to learn? What do I have to experience? What do I have to be joyful for in this life that we have? Because it's a blink and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. There's no more left. And so by you being you, by you sharing your light, by you sharing your love, I mean, you can give someone a hug, man, and that'll change the whole world.
Even a smile.
Exactly.
My favorite thing to do. You smile. At the grocery store, you smile at somebody. I just smile. I love it. You could hug somebody. You could smile at somebody. That's it.
It's just a genuine connection.
That's all you can do.
You know?
It's whenever I smile at somebody at the store, they smile back. Cool. Go have a good day. Because somebody could be having the shittiest day of their life. And you could be walking past them at the grocery store, that one little smile could save their life.
Absolutely.
You never know. And so, again, like that, like when I'm saying pouring my heart, like my love into the world, that's the kind of things I'm talking about.
I love that.
Is I want to just smile at somebody because I know what that's like to be walking through the store being like, am I going to make it? I don't know. Is today the day? I don't know. Am I having the shittiest day? Yeah. Then one person smiles at me, whether it be an elderly person, whether it be a young person.
There's so much when we're able to step out of the darkness and we're able to give gratitude for everything around us. One of the things I notice is the most magical thing on the whole planet, and that is there's magic everywhere. There's miracles everywhere. It's happening all around us, but because so many people are playing I feel so sorry for myself. I feel so sorry for what happened to me. I feel so like hurt because of these things and this happened. And it's like we're on what's the guy's name? I can't think of him. But we're on basically this TV show where we get to blame everything in the past for who we are today.
Wrong.
It's just bullshit.
Wrong.
It's today is today. Today is a new day, pillow to pillow, as you said. What do you think? I think this is important to discuss with addiction. What do you think the payoffs were by being an addict? By doing drugs?
Payoffs for me, being an addict, doing drugs, being a gay man in the gay community, I got to be hot, skinny, center of attention. That was the payoff.
So
that is the payoff of being an addict. I mean, like hot, skinny, and a center of attention. Everyone loves being the center of attention. Everyone loves to be hot, to be skinny, to be gawked at. That was the payoff. That is the payoff.
You do. I don't. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want people to gawk at me. So again, that's your experience. It's not my experience. And I would say that is your story. But the reason I ask you this is because on one side, when we look at, so you can see my hand, there's light right here. On the other side, it's dark. So just like a pyramid, right? So on one side you have light, one side you have darkness. So we have to ask the payoff for why we did what we did. Like, why is this thing? And you just told me exactly what it is. And then we look on the other side and we're like, okay, I have all this light going on. But guess what? You still want the same payoff.
Still do.
So now you get to figure out a way, how do I get that same payoff? And measurably, okay, I can still be the center of attention. You're on a show right now. You're the center of attention for who's ever watching the show. You can still be skinny, Maybe you have to do it a different way. Have to go to the gym and eat right and do those things. And also I'd ask yourself, the attention that you were getting, the payoff of that attention, are those the same people you want that attention from now?
Absolutely not.
But you want attention from other people.
Absolutely.
So it's starting to define what that looks like.
Well, it all shifts completely. The confidence, the attention, the skinniness, the hotness, whatever it is, it all shifts to people that you're surrounding yourself with. Would I want to go out to a club right now and be gawked at and be the center of attention? No, I would not. But do I want to go and I want to share my story and I want to be able to look at other people and talk with them and be that center of attention in that way? Absolutely. you see how that shifted? Mm-hmm. Instead of sitting there just being a piece of meat, now I'm over here being able to share my story and hopefully shed a little bit of my light just to show people that like there is another side to it. That's how it shifts.
So do me a favor and close your eyes for a second. And I just want you just to kind of go in and slow down. And I want you to tell me, what does the next 5 years of your life look like? Now that you've let go of these choices and actions and experiences and you've healed through those things and you're working with people that have you and they're supporting you in the community, what's the next 5 years look like?
Next 5 years look like me building my own family, getting married, having kids, and being a dad. Being able to have traditions and values with my own family. Breaking a lot of these generational traumas and working through so many things I've never worked through to be able to give kids that I will have a wonderful life with loving parents.
And so it is.
It's the next 5 years, and that's everything I could ever work towards right now. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if that wasn't my goal for the next 5 years.
It's beautiful. And every single time that any of those things come up in your space, because they will, I want you to look at your child in the eyes that is ready to come into this planet and smile at them and say, listen, like, I did the work so that you didn't have to. I became the man that you needed so that I could love you and I could bring you in this world and I could protect you. And I could also give you the ability to be whoever it is you want to be, whoever it is, with no judgment, just open arms so that you can experience you, which is the greatest gift anybody could ever ask for.
Absolutely.
And then go get in that cold plunge.
We're going together.
All right, man. I appreciate your vulnerability and I appreciate you showing the different sides of this. Absolutely. And for me, I wish you the greatest, if I don't know how I can even express it, but that you stay on this path, that you stay on the same path that you're committed to, that you remember in the mornings to do the work, that you know that there's no arrival, that you surround yourself around people that love you and care about you, that you create those systems around you, and that you continue to do the work. It's lifelong work.
Thank you, Dalton. Like you said, there's no arrival. It's lifelong work, and that's what I'm here to do.
And you've got this. You've got a lot of people around you that love you. You're doing the work right now. And I can't wait for 5 years for you to come to me and say, hey, Dalton, remember that podcast you had and you said that people are statistics and all these things? Fuck you. You know?
5 years, I'll bring my kids. How about that?
I like that. Absolutely. I love that, man.
Thank you so much, Dalton. I appreciate that. This has been great.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming out. People want to follow your story. They want to see what you're doing in this world and watch you start to climb and share your stories, share your message with the world. Where do they find you?
Instagram. My name is Kaden Jenson. On Instagram, Kaden X Jenson. You can follow my recovery in real time, my cold plunge in real time, my 30-day check-ins. So just did my first 30-day check-in the other day. So I'll continue to do that for 30, 60, 90, and so forth for the next forever. So you can find me there. And yeah.
Well, we're all rooting for you. So,
Thank you, Dalton.
through the interwebs, we're all sending you our love and we're all sending you our energy from the future, right, into the now, and know that you have a ton of support. You have a ton of support in this world. That is not pressure. That is support by people that love you, that care about you, and want to see you the most healthy you can so you can be the best father you can be.
Thank you, Dalton.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.